she got sick of the constant moaning and the drama, so she had to flee. And can you blame her? Can you really blame her? Because Doria Ragland has stayed massively loyal to Meghan. Sometime that things aren't great between Meghan Markle and her own mother, Doria Ragland. She has been completely miserable in the last couple of public appearances that the fake Duchess forced on her. Meghan Markle howled, "Don't leave me," as her mother, Doria Ragland, moved out of her and her henpecked husband, Prince Harry's Montecito mansion, RadarOnline.com can reveal.
What if the most shocking secret about Archie and Lilibet isn't who they are, but where they actually were?
Used her mom to care for her kids, and sources tell us even her own mother got so sick of her constant moaning and drama she had to flee the luxury home. Insiders say Ragland's departure has left Markle 43 and Prince Harry 40 struggling to adjust without her.
It didn't begin with leaked documents, secret recordings, or a dramatic confrontation. According to sources familiar with the moment, it began quietly with a whisper so unexpected it stopped conversations cold. Doria Ragland, Meghan's mother, allegedly leaned in during a private exchange and asked a question no one in the room was prepared to hear. What are Archie and Lilibet like? I've never really seen them.
A class or a lesson in gaslighting, or whether Meghan Markle has absolutely lost her mind, or maybe it is the fact that she's able to get away over and over and over by flaunting her lies, most serious lies.
According to one former household staffer, stepping inside the Montecito mansion never felt like entering a family home. It felt staged. She claims she worked long shifts, 12 hours a day, 5 days a week, moving through every room, hallway, and living space with the kind of familiarity that only comes from repetition. Yet, despite spending more time there than in her own apartment, she says the house never developed a pulse.
A difficult patch, marked by professional setbacks and personal challenges. That's the understatement of the year. The tight-knit mother-daughter bond strengthened during this time.
Everything was immaculate to an unnatural degree. Cushions were aligned with precision. Surfaces were spotless, not just clean, but unused. Kitchens looked prepared for photographs, not meals. Bedrooms felt decorative rather than personal. According to her, nothing was ever out of place because nothing was ever used. There was no evidence of routines forming or habits settling in.
Because maybe if she says them over and over, she will convince herself and manage to convince idiots that still give her a platform that she didn't earn.
What troubled her most, she says, was the atmosphere. Homes with children carry energy, noise, movement, unpredictability. This one, she claims, carried silence. Not peaceful silence, but a heavy stillness that made you lower your voice without knowing why. She would pause in rooms expecting to hear something. Anything, but there was only emptiness.
One insider close to the family told us Doria was a steady support for Harry and Meghan during a tough time. She provided them with much-needed emotional strength, but she has her own life and social code.
At first, she told herself she must be missing it. Perhaps the children were elsewhere. Perhaps they were sleeping. But days turned into weeks and weeks into months, and nothing changed. The house remained pristine, quiet, and strangely untouched. According to her, it didn't feel like a place where life unfolded. It felt like a place waiting to be observed.
And the family, the royal family, the palace, is now finally willing to take action in the worst possible way for Meghan Markle. And talking about lies, I'm just going to show you a couple of things here, because
children announce their presence without trying. Even well-behaved ones leave traces behind. Tiny shoes kicked off near doors, fingerprints on glass, crumbs ground into carpets. According to the staffer, none of that existed inside the house. No toys left behind, no sippy cups on tables, no stuffed animals tucked into corners, nothing.
Said about her mother leaving, she even pleaded, "Don't leave me," as she walked out the door with her suitcases. Harry also regarded Doria as a mother figure and both are feeling her absence.
She says she listened for it, the unmistakable soundtrack of childhood laughter echoing down hallways, sudden cries in the middle of the night, footsteps when they should be asleep, but she claims she never heard a single sound that suggested children lived through the silence, was constant, unbroken, and unsettling.
Ready to concentrate on her own life, but remains a key part of the family. She plans to visit often, but won't be living with them full-time again. Our insider said the pair are totally lost, and Meghan must be thinking something is deeply wrong.
Eventually, she says the absence became impossible to ignore. One afternoon, she quietly asked another staff member if they ever saw the children. According to her, the woman didn't hesitate. She simply shook her head and whispered, "Never." That one word reportedly hung between them longer than any explanation could have.
Massively loyal to Meghan. She drank the Kool-Aid for a period. She even was used as propaganda in the Netflix documentary series. But since then, like the rest of the world, she's seen how her daughter's lives have been.
What made it more disturbing, she claims, was the time frame. This wasn't after a week or two. This was after months of working sunrise to sunset, opening doors, cleaning rooms, and moving freely throughout the house. If children were there, they were invisible.
Doria has a track record of running off and disappearing for years at a time. Now, I'm not criticizing Doria for that.
Outside the gates, the world believed a different story. That Archie and Lee were growing up happily, shielded from public view. Inside, according to those who worked there, the question kept returning. Where were they?
Make your choices. However, I do believe that it was Doria's responsibility to ensure that Meghan didn't treat her father the way that she is now treating her. Angela Levin, our royal.
According to insiders, Meghan's presence in the house felt intermittent and oddly choreographed. The staffer claims Meghan didn't move through the space like someone who lived there full-time. Instead, she appeared briefly, purposefully, and almost always accompanied.
It's lovely to have grandchildren. So at the beginning of these relationships, they're lovely. Everybody's happy and the children are growing and all that. But if you start taking advantage of the mother, then things get bad because they do need to have a life.
There were assistants, associates, frequently Marcus Anderson, sometimes full camera crews. The staffer alleges Meghan was never alone, not once. Her arrivals felt more like entrances than homecomings. She would move quickly, talk rapidly, and rarely settle into the space.
You can start disagreeing, one about, complaining when you've got this absolutely amazing home and so much that you can do, and you just get fed up with it. And she does have friends.
What stood out most, the staffer says, was how differently Meghan behaved when cameras were present. She appeared animated, warm, and engaged. But once filming stopped, that energy allegedly vanished. Smiles dropped, conversations ended, moments dissolved. Staff began whispering that she seemed more like a guest than a mother, someone stopping by to oversee a project rather than coming home to family. Her visits reportedly decreased over time from several days a week to just 1 or 2.
For Meghan and Harry's, she wouldn't have minded, and she didn't mind, to be very comforting to them. As I said, they both felt that they were, sort of both of their mothers.
And to those watching, it didn't feel organic. It felt rehearsed. She allegedly walked the same paths repeatedly while camera angles were adjusted. Conversations paused until lighting was right. According to one account, staff overheard discussions about getting the shot. The house, they claim, wasn't being lived in. It was being filmed in. And that distinction mattered because real life is messy, unpredictable, and noisy. What they saw instead was controlled, polished, and temporary.
And you've got to sort of learn to stand on your own 2 feet. And she just got fed up because if she just listens to these moans, and if actually that Meghan is...
One evening, according to the staffer, shattered whatever illusion still existed, the house was quiet as usual until raised voices cut through the silence, sharp, unmistakable, and impossible to ignore. These weren't casual disagreements. They were charged, emotional, and heavy. She recognized Meghan's voice first, tense, fast, edged with anger. Harry's voice, she says, was different. Not aggressive, not commanding. It sounded exhausted, pleading, like someone trying desperately to calm a situation already spiraling.
Anything. She wanted to do things. I think she was quite right not to say where she was going to watch a show.
As she moved closer, she claimed she saw Harry seated with his head in his hands, his posture conveying defeat rather than defiance. Meghan was pacing. Marcus Anderson, according to her account, stood nearby attempting to mediate.
Being a sort of a grandiose human being and not accepting that she would like to do her own things. You know, if she still wants to do yoga, but she can't because...
When the argument ended, the house fell into a different kind of silence, cold and suffocating. The staffer says she instinctively brought Harry a glass of water. He accepted it quietly and whispered, "Thank you." That moment stayed with her, not because it was dramatic, but because it felt revealing. Harry, once publicly confident and carefree, looked worn down, broken. According to her, it didn't feel like witnessing a bad night. It felt like witnessing a pattern.
Meghan said, "I'm going out, you'll have to be here." So it must have, over the time, got very, very annoying for her. And actually, I think there is a step of real kindness there when she says she's very pleased how they're living.
After that evening, she says the atmosphere changed. Smiles became rare. Tension lingered in the walls, and the sense that something fundamental was wrong could no longer be ignored. When you're inside something like that, she says, you don't need proof. You feel it.
And Harry, who actually has leaned on his mother-in-law to be helpful emotionally to him, but she's going, and I don't think that she thinks everything's...
The most troubling realization came slowly, not as a shocking revelation, but as a growing absence she could no longer explain away. She claims that during the months she worked inside the house, periods that allegedly overlapped with Meghan's pregnancies, she never once observed any physical signs that would normally accompany pregnancy. She saw Meghan up close, not from a distance or through edited photos, but in tight hallways and everyday moments. According to her account, there was no visible baby bump, no gradual physical change over time, no careful movements or physical discomfort that staff typically notice when someone is expecting. She says Meghan moved freely, bent easily, and showed none of the subtle shifts that usually happen long before a pregnancy becomes public. Love for her daughter.
Love for her daughter.
Yeah, I mean, look, it can't be easy. We learn from those reports emanating from the Sussex Survivors Club earlier this weekend.
At first, the staffer questioned herself. Maybe the clothing concealed everything. Maybe she simply wasn't observant enough. But the doubt lingered, especially because she had previously worked around pregnant women and recognized the signs. According to her, none of them were present here.
That when Harry's around, Meghan controls some of her worst behavior, especially with the staff. Do you think Doria has that moderating influence too?
When she cautiously raised the subject with other staff members, she claims their reactions were telling. They hadn't noticed anything either. No prenatal vitamins on counters, no special dietary requests, no medical appointments coordinated through the house, nothing that suggested preparation for a baby's arrival.
Or does she just act like the diva that she is even around her own mother?
Well, she probably is so used to being a diva that she would be shouting at her mother, "Why didn't you put them on this?"
What unsettled her most was the contrast. Outside the property, magazines published glowing images, carefully styled outfits, hands cradling a perfectly rounded belly, headlines celebrating every stage of pregnancy. Inside the house, according to staff accounts, there was nothing to observe at all. She isn't claiming certainty, she says, only absence. And sometimes, absence speaks louder than anything else. Months after leaving the job, the staffer says she sat down to watch the Netflix documentary, expecting familiarity. She thought she might recognize the hallways she'd walked daily, or the rooms she'd cleaned until they gleamed. Instead, she felt disoriented almost immediately.
Breakfast, dinner, supper, tea, she would get cross and start treating her as if she was employed. And she decided that she didn't want that. The one thing
The house on screen, she claims, didn't match the house she worked in. The layout felt wrong. The angles didn't align. Rooms appeared larger, brighter, differently shaped. Even the garden looked unfamiliar. The placement of trees, the curve of walkways, the flow of light. According to her, it felt like watching footage from an entirely different property.
Because if anything, it seems worse. And the fact that Meghan shouted, don't leave me, shows you that she is very desperate. We don't know if Meghan actually does anything very much with the children because she's out and about and all that. But, if she gets cross with her mother, because she's not doing things exactly what she writes at the right time, she might have started.
What disturbed her most were the scenes showing family life, children playing freely, laughter echoing across sunlit lawns, moments framed as intimate and spontaneous. She insists she had never seen children playing in those spaces, not once during months of daily work. As she watched, questions began stacking on top of each other. If this wasn't the same house, why film there? Why recreate a domestic setting elsewhere instead of using the actual home? To her, the discrepancy felt deliberate, not accidental.
Started shouting at her like she has done with other staff, and her mother thinks, this is enough. She can't talk to me like that. Who does she think she is? And so she doesn't want to do it like that anymore.
She began noticing details she couldn't unsee. Different cabinets in the kitchen, a staircase railing she didn't recognize, windows positioned where none existed in the house she cleaned. Each inconsistency deepened her unease. The documentary was presented as raw and authentic, but to someone who'd lived inside the real space, it felt staged. And if the setting wasn't real, she wondered what else was.
And she might want to do yoga, she might want to actually have a life. She's 68 and she might want to do lots of other things. And she has helped enormously. And she's helped Meghan go out and feel at ease that her mother is there looking after the children. The children probably love her.
From the moment staff arrived at the gates, security protocols reportedly made one thing clear. Information control came first. According to insiders, phones weren't just turned off. They were surrendered, locked away. Smartwatches, recording devices, anything capable of documentation stayed outside.
You need to hear it. You really need to hear it because Meghan Markle is in shock. And what is worse is her latest allegation is that the palace was in on it.
Staff were searched daily, bags inspected, pockets checked. Once inside, they were effectively cut off from the outside world for up to 12 hours at a time. The staffer claims it felt isolating, but more unsettling was what the surveillance focused on. Cameras, she says, didn't prioritize doors or perimeter security. Instead, they tracked workers, hallways, kitchens, workspaces. It felt less like protection from intrusion and more like monitoring behavior.
And we're gonna see the real lies and how the palace actually did know about it, but did try to stop it. And why, the real reason why.
One incident cemented the message. A co-worker snapped a photo of flowers blooming near the entrance. Just flowers. Within minutes, security intervened, demanded the phone, deleted the image, and verified it was removed from the deleted folder. No warnings, no explanations. After that, silence ruled. Conversations dropped to whispers. Everyone understood the rules. Nothing leaves this property. Not images, not stories, not observations.
The truth about her. She can't handle the truth because in this podcast is a clapback at that Vanity Fair. Remember what we told you guys about the Vanity Fair? There was absolutely zero way in hell that Meghan Markle was going to allow herself.
According to the staffer, this level of control went far beyond celebrity privacy. It created an environment where reality was contained and unrecorded. Normal families want peace. They don't need a total information lockdown. The house, she says, didn't feel like a sanctuary. It felt like a vault, sealed, guarded, and designed to ensure that whatever happened inside stayed there, unseen and unquestioned. As weeks turned into months, staff began quietly comparing notes. Not openly, never openly, but in hushed moments between tasks. And what they realized, according to the former staffer, was chilling in its consistency.
Her fake birth certificate for Lilibet. And then Dan Wooten played it in his platform, which is clearly a more mainstream platform. She started devolving.
The laundry worker reportedly never washed children's clothes. No onesies, no tiny socks, no pajamas stained with food or grass, nothing ever. The grocery coordinator, she claims, never ordered baby food, formula, snacks, or juice boxes. No kid-friendly items appeared on shopping lists. The cook never prepared children's meals. The cleaning staff never picked up toys. Security guards never escorted or protected children. Each role, independent of the others, experienced the same omission. No one accused. No one speculated out loud. They simply noticed the same thing repeatedly. There was no daily evidence of children living there.
3 Lilies and 4 or 5 Archies. And I am going to show you which one seems to me to be the real Archie. Get ready for this ride, beautiful people, because it is going to be a shocker.
If you could rewrite your public narrative from scratch, is there anything that you would do differently? Yes, I would ask people to tell the truth.
Even security personnel, usually expressionless, exchanged brief looks in passing, glances that carried unspoken questions. They were trained observers. They noticed patterns, and the pattern was emptiness. The staffer emphasizes that none of these people were dramatic or malicious. They weren't chasing gossip. They were describing their job duties and what those duties never included. When every department experiences the same absence, it stops feeling coincidental. It starts feeling structural. Something wasn't being overlooked. It simply wasn't there. And that realization, she says, settled heavily on everyone who worked inside that house. When all the pieces are placed side by side, a troubling picture emerges. One built not on proof, but on patterns. It began with a grandmother's whisper. A simple question that should have been easy to answer. According to sources, Doria Ragland couldn't describe her grandchildren because she rarely saw them. It continued with staff who spent more time inside the house than anyone else. People who cleaned, cooked, guarded, and maintained every inch of the property. According to their accounts, they never encountered the daily realities of children living there.
You know, when she went on Jamie Karen Lima, I'm not in the proving game anymore. I don't have to prove that I'm beautiful. No, you don't, because you're not. You're not. No matter how many plastic surgeries you do, you're not, Meghan. You're not a nice person. You're not a kind person.
They saw a house that felt staged. A mother who appeared on cue. Pregnancies they say they never witnessed. A documentary filmed in spaces they didn't recognize. Security focused on silence rather than safety, and an absence so consistent it became impossible to dismiss.
Also, that her great-grandparents were half-siblings. And according to the insider at the clinic, she didn't make the payments for 6 months, so her eggs went to waste. So now I'm even questioning myself if those kids are even hers.
None of this proves anything definitively. No documents, no photographs, no confirmations, just first-hand accounts and unanswered questions. But questions matter, especially when they repeat. If the home was real, why recreate it elsewhere? If the children lived there, why did no one inside ever see them? If privacy was the goal, why the extreme containment? These are not accusations. They are contradictions. And contradictions have a way of demanding attention. The world believes a story told through images and interviews. But according to those who lived behind the gates, what they witnessed didn't match what was shown. Which leaves one question quiet, unsettling, and still unanswered. If no one inside the house ever saw Archie and Lilibet, where were